Okay. ¿Cuál es su nombre?
José de Jesús Martínez Argüello.
Okay. ¿Y cuántos años tiene?
54.
Okay. ¿Cuántos lenguajes habla usted?
Hablo el español y el inglés como un 40%.
Término code switching que se refiere a que cuando está hablando habla los lenguajes al mismo tiempo. ¿Usted usa ese término?
Sí se me ha pasado
Sí.
que revuelvo a veces las palabras
Las
de
pal-
inglés con español.
¿Y por qué hace esto?
Yo
Oh,
pienso que llega un tiempo en que la mente se va, empieza uno a hablar español y luego el lenguaje inglés empieza a crecer en el cerebro y luego llega un tiempo en que el cerebro medio se confunde.
ujú.
Y por decir algo, quiero no decir algo en español, de repente lo dice en inglés. Pero
Oh,
sí me ha pasado.
okay.
Y se hace uno como que mete palabras de los dos lenguajes.
Okay. ¿Usted cuando sus niños estaban chiquitos, usted usaba a sus niños para ser como intérpretes?
Sí.
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 ¿El, el más mayor, el mediano, el chiquito, o todos juntos o como
Todos los tres los he
tres?
usado
Ajá.
para que me ayuden.
Okay, what's your name?
Orlando Martinez.
And how old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a few questions. The first question would be, what do you consider yourself as? Are you bilingual? Do you just know one language? How many languages do you know?
I'm definitely bilingual. I know English and Spanish.
Mm-hmm. What was the first language you spoke?
I grew up learning Spanish. When I got to school, I started learning English.
Okay. What does the term bilingualism mean to you?
Bilingualism to me means you know how to speak and write two languages. As long as it's fluent, I would consider somebody bilingual.
Okay, so let me say, for example, a person that grew up just speaking one language, let's say, for example, English, then later learns a new language in Spanish, but doesn't know how to write it grammatically correct. Is that considered a person bilingual?
Um, that's a tough one. I would still consider the person bilingual because if he can speak it well, yeah. Grammatically, if you can speak it, you can always learn how to write it. So yeah, I would consider the person bilingual.
Okay. Is it important for you to be bilingual? If you were to turn back time, would you ever change the person you are as, being bilingual?
Yeah, I feel like it's important to be bilingual, especially because the world is being globalized. A lot of companies from different worlds, I mean, a lot of companies from different countries are working with each other. So, um, the world's getting globalized, and with that comes more knowledge of languages. So, the more languages you know, the more valuable you'll become as a person.
Hi, my name's Alex Martinez, and I am 19 years old.
Okay. Alex, so you were born here in Houston, Texas, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. When did you start speaking? Do you know what age you started speaking?
I started speaking English like fluently, or it's just like
Your first language, was it Spanish or English? I mean, obviously Spanish.
Oh yeah, my first language was Spanish, and then once I got around like fourth grade, third grade, I started to learn English. Like I understood English a little bit better. Yeah.
Mhm. So when you were in the classroom, were you able to, when you first was introduced to the language in English, did you struggle to do some assignments, or how did you feel about the new language in the classroom?
Um, It was pretty easy since I was in ESL. We slowly got introduced into it, and the fact that I also watched a lot of English cartoons, it helped a lot. It helped my vocabulary, and just with being in the ESL program, it helped me out a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Where do you use the languages? At home, do you use both languages, or how do you use those languages with what people?
So I mainly use Spanish in the household just to talk to my parents, but with my brother and sister and Lori, I talk to them in English
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel? Do you feel like you speak English more than Spanish?
Yes, I feel like I
Yes.
speak more English than Spanish.
And since you've been speaking in English more often, do you feel like the Spanish has slowly diminished in a way?
Yes,
Do you feel like you feel less like your Spanish is not that fluently anymore by the as time passes by?
Yes, it has definitely faded away, and over the course of time, since my vocabulary is nothing but English, in high school and middle school and even in college now, so my vocabulary for English and just speaking it has gotten more up. Like I know I learn it a lot more now, and the Spanish has just gone down. I just talk simple words to my parents like I'm hungry and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't be able to write something in Spanish if somebody were to ask you to write something. Let's say, for example, maybe like a sentence. Let's say, for example, I like to go work out in Spanish. Would you be able to write it down in Spanish?
I will be able to write it down, but the grammar won't be perfect. But I feel like Spanish people will still be able to understand it.
You?
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's this term called code switching, and code switching means that you use two languages as you speak at the same time. Do you use that often, or?
Yeah. Is it like Spanglish? How people say, "Oh, that's Spanglish."
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I don't use it for English. I mainly use it for Spanish because I struggle with Spanish. So I had some words I can't say in Spanish, like the higher vocabulary words.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say some words in Spanish, so I kind of just mix it up with the English. But I don't do it with the English. I don't say some Spanish words in English.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you were young, did you ever translate something for your parents?
Yeah.
In English?
Yes, I definitely did.
How was that? How did you feel about translating? Did you feel like a responsibility on top of you? Did you feel fine doing it, or?
I mean, sometimes it was kind of just like it was. I guess it was annoying, but it's like it was my responsibility that I had to do for my mom. It's mainly with my mom. My dad knew a little bit of English, so he was fine talking in English. But for the most part, for my mom, I just felt like I had to do it. Like it was my duty. And yeah.
Was there any awkward situations when you were translating, for example, from Spanish to English? Anything like maybe something that your mom wanted you to translate into English, but maybe it wasn't like the right thing to say to the other person, so you kind of have to maybe like say it in a good way,
Yeah. So whenever I'm translating for my mom, if there's, I guess it's kind of awkward whenever my mom wants something and she says it in Spanish, but I don't know how to say it in English.
so there's a conflict between
There's
cultures, right?
there's like an interference in the communication between like all three people, because I know what my mom's saying in Spanish, but I don't know how to translate that to English, and I'll try to like explain to the person, and about like what it is, and then eventually I think they get it, but for the most part it's a struggle. Yeah. The other thing that's annoying about my mom, but that's more of her personality, is that she talks really fast, and she's like, as I'm translating, she's also telling me to tell him other stuff, so that's kind of difficult as well. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Fue una experiencia diferente al hablar con estas tres diferentes personas. Las tres personas son bilingües, pero no están en el mismo nivel. Por ejemplo, en el caso de Jesús Martínez, él creció en México hablando español. Entonces, él fue introducido al segundo lenguaje en la secundaria, ya cuando estaba en su adolescencia. Esta es una desventaja para él porque al ser adolescente su cerebro no funciona igual como la de un niño, y eso le llaman critical period hypothesis. Baker y Wright dicen que es importante introducir un lenguaje primero, por ejemplo, el lenguaje natal, desarrollarlo, poder hablarlo y escribirlo, y entonces después introducir el segundo lenguaje. Esto es importante en el área cognitiva para que el cerebro sea eficiente cuando los niños estén estudiando. En el caso de Orlando Martínez, él se mudó a los Estados Unidos cuando tenía 2 años. En la escuela fue introducido en clases de ESL. Allí desarrolló todo el español y fue introducido también al segundo lenguaje inglés hasta llegar al 5º grado. Orlando dice que está fluido en ambos lenguajes, en el inglés y en el español, gracias al programa de ESL. Lo diferente entre Jesús y Orlando es que Orlando fue introducido en el español y en inglés cuando estaba casi un niño. Jesús fue introducido en el inglés ya cuando estaba en su adolescencia, que es algo muy critical. Cuando le pregunté a Orlando qué es el significado de bilingüismo, él me dijo que es una persona que puede hablar y escribir los 2 lenguajes. Pero cuando le pregunté, por ejemplo, si una persona crece hablando inglés y luego fue introducido al segundo lenguaje, por ejemplo, el español, y solamente puede hablarlo un poquito, ¿es una persona bilingüe? Y él me dijo que sí es una persona bilingüe, porque no es necesario hablarlo y escribirlo. Tan solo poder hablarlo o escribirlo, ya eres una persona bilingüe. De acuerdo a Baker y Wright, es difícil saber si una persona es bilingüe o no. Orlando y Alex son hermanos. Alex tiene 19 y Orlando tiene 24 años, pero hay una gran diferencia entre los dos. El bilingüismo de estos 2 hermanos es muy diferente. Orlando fue introducido en clases bilingües cuando empezó la primaria y todo hasta llegar al 5º grado. Más Alex fue introducido también como Orlando, pero luego lo pusieron en clases de puro inglés empezando en el 3º grado. Para ser académicamente fluido en un lenguaje, Baker y Wright dicen que tienes que estudiar un lenguaje por lo menos 7 años.